Perfection is always one of the main goals I have whenever I do any kind of challenge runs. I mean, no matter what I do, whether it's min-maxing or any sort of challenge, the thing at the very end is always perfection. I always really want to go for it, and I always want to get it as soon as possible. But the only real downfall is it's only possible to get at the very end of your second year. So I thought instead of doing like a normal run, I would just sleep for the first 100 days, wake up, do a little bit of prep work, and then go for perfection in essentially 1 year. Now the setup is pretty simple overall. It's kind of a harder challenge in my opinion, which is why I'm only sleeping 100 days instead of the full year. That way I can give myself around 12 days to prep for a pseudo 1 year completion goal. And the main reason you can't complete the perfection in 1 year is Kent and getting all the recipes. So with that being said, our main goals are obviously to get perfection. And that means we need at least 13 million gold, all the recipes, all crafting, all the fish caught, shipping every item, maximizing all of the friendships, and we're also going to go the community center route just for a little bit of an extra challenge, hopefully not too much. And then obviously we're not going to be using any like item spawning mods or glitches or things like that. We are going to allow for animation canceling, which gives you a pretty significant advantage, and I'll also be using predictors and things like that. So let's get on with it. And generally speaking, there's going to be a very specific route I'm going to stick to rather. I'm pretty much going to stick to a Skull Cavern style min-max approach for the money aspect, and I'm also going to really take advantage of things like birthdays, festivals, and just everything I can, essentially, every advantage I can take to make this happen. So you're going to see me do some really weird stuff, especially in this first winter. Like for example, you just noticed I tilled up some very specific spots, or rather a very specific amount of times right there, before I went and grabbed all this other random stuff. And the main reason for that is I'm going to be utilizing clay farming, but not in a very traditional way. So clay farming, when it comes to early game, is extremely advantageous. You can basically spend your entire time mining for clay, essentially, over and over and over again to make tons of money early on. And the only time it's better to do that, aside from early game, is when your early game starts on winter 17th. And that's because you can do the clay farming on the beach. And on the beach, you don't necessarily get clay. Because the way that winter forage works, when I go down here and start farming in this little corner here, I won't mine up clay. I'll mine up things like winter roots and crystal fruit. Or not crystal fruit, sorry, but snow yams. And so as long as I follow the traditional clay farming pattern, which is explained in quite a few different videos, and if need be I can explain it in another video as well. But as long as I follow this specific pattern over and over again, I can essentially infinitely farm up these 2 forage items, and I can do it for as much time as I have in the day, because I can eat the stuff I dig up as I go. So this is something I'm going to utilize in the wintertime, and it's probably in the min-max community they rely on clay farming really heavily, and even though it's a pretty aggressive RNG exploit, and since they're allowed to do it, I'm giving myself the ability to do it. They kind of pick and choose what rules they want to follow, so I'll abide by theirs. And as you can see, I spent my entire day pretty much doing that, and I got a sizable amount of snow yams and a sizable amount of winter roots, 170 snow yams, which is insane. And so with that, I'm essentially going to be funding my early days just to give myself that leg up. I don't think there's any way you could truly do this in 1 year without giving yourself some sorts of advantages. And in fact, I don't even know if you actually can do this in a year. I've done some minor research into it, probably not as much as I should have. But I think at this point I think I can do it, but we'll see. And as you can tell, this is obviously not going to be just a one-off video. This is going to be an ongoing series, so if you watched my other series, I hope you enjoy this one too, and if not, I hope you tune in for it. I think it should be pretty interesting, despite the fact that it's going to be very regimented. I'm still going to try and keep it pretty relaxed. I don't really have any other setting anyway, so I don't know. This first, I would say these first 2 episodes are going to be, I don't know, pretty quick. So today will be about 25 minutes, but I'm going to go through about a week of winter, and same with next episode. And then after that, we'll go a much slower approach so you can kind of see my specific pathing and routing I'm going to do. Most days I play over... Okay, so first of all, I guess I'll interrupt myself. I made about $25,000 or $25,000. Jeez, I'm tired, sorry. And that's just on the very first day of actually playing. So I've already unlocked the Bat Cave, which should hopefully help me with the fruit for the community center bundles. And yeah, so that gives me a huge advantage. I should be able to afford a backpack now. I can start building buildings. I can buy ore. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, needless to say, some of this stuff is sped up pretty significantly. Obviously not the gameplay itself, but the footage is, just so you don't have to watch me like chopping tons of trees on these first few prep days. I don't think I'll speed stuff as much later on, just like I did with my last series. And I will probably skip a lot of Skull Caverns kind of stuff, just because I know that's pretty tedious to watch. And I don't want this run to be too similar to the last one. It will have some significant differences just because of the additional goals we have. One of the main differences will be the fact that we have to actually interact with NPCs. And so that's why, like in these prep days, I theoretically could just spend my entire time clay farming, which would be worth it. But I think it's also a little bit more valuable to try and build like a baseline friendship with everybody. And that way, later on, I can worry about it a little less. And I know that pattern I'm doing looks really, really crazy. But once you learn how to do it, or if you look at the video by... Oh goodness, I wish I could remember his name. Bull. I'll find it and I'll link it in the description. If you look at his video, he explains it in the most perfect way. And it's so easy to understand and do. So it's easier to do than it looks. It's just basically a manner of predicting where the clay is going to spawn, to say the least. So yeah, anyway, like I said before, I'll be cutting around quite a bit, just kind of highlighting the more interesting stuff I'm doing, rather than showing the full day up until spring 1, and then I'll change things up. But right now, my main focuses are upgrading my axe, upgrading my pickaxe, my bag, and maybe getting a few buildings built before the actual year starts. And the main reason for that is just so I can get into the caverns quicker, and so I can start making that money a little bit faster, because the faster I can do that, the easier everything else becomes. Once you have a steady source of income, and a steady source of things like prismatic shards or rabbit's feet, the run becomes a lot more trivial. The main thing early on is trying to find like decent gifts for people, or just like the perfect way to utilize your time. And it's really easy to waste time and not realize it. So even some of this stuff, like arguably I probably shouldn't have built a coop this early, but I did anyway, and I'm not going to start over because I'm already pretty deep into this. And I'm sure, I don't know, I'd like to think that I'm doing this in a somewhat optimal way, but I'm not doing it in the most optimal like way. If that's what you're looking for, you might have to look somewhere else, unfortunately. I am not like a professional at this by any means. So yeah, for the most part, my days are spent early on just meeting everybody and just doing general farm clearing, which is a pretty big undertaking considering I was sleeping for 100 days. And also I'll have to sell one of everything. So I'll have to start selling weird stuff early on. I'll have to start buying recipes from Gus. I'll have to tune in on Wednesdays and Sundays now for recipes. And hope that I don't accidentally miss one and lose the run for that little of a reason, which is very likely because I am pretty forgetful, and something like that is really easy to forget and really easy to not notice. So I've also chosen Leia or Leah, whatever you want to say, I guess it is Leah, as my spouse, because salads are going to be plentiful for me early on, and that's one of her favorite items or loved gifts, so that's going to be pretty common. And yeah, I don't know, I think it's a pretty easy strategy. I think it's just the Skull Cavern strat, but really taking advantage of bad luck days more is the biggest thing. Trying to find the best way to spend our time when things aren't really going our way. And that'll be really key to this. That and birthdays. If I can remember people's birthdays, that'll be fantastic. And unlikely, but I really hope I can manage it. So yeah, I don't know. If you're interested in some relatively relaxed gameplay, this is probably a good fit for you. And I hope you stick around for it. I tend to stay pretty monotone, so there's not a lot of outbursts or loud things going on. So I don't know, some folks like to sleep to these videos, which I'm all about. So yeah, on a second day, by the way, of the worst luck, and so it doesn't really matter. It's not the worst thing in the world, especially considering that this is basically bonus time anyway, and I didn't really want to spend an extra effort doing things like step counting to try and maximize my luck. As I was doing the 100 days of sleeping, I had to go outside every day to screenshot first, so my step count would have been off from that, and I didn't count how many steps I took every day for that, so I don't want to do step counting. That would be probably the best thing to do, but it's not fun. That is the worst thing in the world. So yeah, I just did the clay pattern again this morning. That's a pretty common way I'll start my days. But while I did it, I just smelted up my bars, and then I ran into start gifting a bunch more to people, and I will head into Clint's to start upgrading my axe. And I elected to upgrade the axe first, just so I could start harvesting hardwood early as possible. I really didn't want repairing the boat to be another big obstacle and not having enough hardwood for that. So I wanted to make sure that was done as early as possible. Getting a good relationship with Leo is going to be one of the hardest parts about this run. And so we really need to make sure we get there as early as possible, and hopefully that's possible with this seed. I don't actually know anything about this seed, it's a random seed. And then yeah, traveling cart is going to be huge. I bought an odd item there. I bought tulips, and that's just because it's a loved gift by Evelyn, who has a birthday in winter, and it's also a liked gift by a lot of people, so I will use that pretty often. And they were cheap, so why not? And then I just bought a couple of random things so I can start donating to community center as early as possible. I shouldn't have any major obstacles with the community center. One of the main things that tends to hold people back from early completion is all of the winter stuff. And the year 2 crops like red cabbage. And I will be able to already have that because of my prep time. So that is a nice advantage I am giving myself. And the main reason I guess I decided to give myself that advantage is I just think it'll be more fun. And that's it. I don't know. I don't really have to justify it, I guess. So yeah, I'll just keep donating as early as possible. I want to get those winter seeds started, just so I can boost up my foraging a little bit. Getting my foraging maxed out as early as possible is going to be kind of a challenge. And this is probably the best way to do it since I can't farm anything else in the winter anyway. And I will also be doing a relatively decent amount of fishing. I need to get, well, I guess technically I don't need to get anything because I will play through another winter again. But I might as well boost my fishing level as soon as possible so I can try to go for legend in spring as early as possible. Ideally, I would get it by the first rainfall, but because it's year 2, I don't know when that will be. I think spring year 1 is always guaranteed to have rain on the 3rd, but year 2 I don't believe has that same guarantee. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm not, I don't know, I'm wrong about a lot of stuff, so who knows. So yeah, you'll just kind of see my prep. I kind of left the prep to be a little bit slapdash, if you will. I kind of just thought, oh, what might be the most helpful. I didn't want to spend too much time doing prep work, just because like it's already such a big advantage. I didn't want to give myself too much, you know? I'm trying to find a balance in what I was going to do. And once I decided I was going to take advantage of the clay farming thing, I decided to kind of let the rest of it be a little more like free form, I guess you will. Because that clay farming thing really makes money a non-issue early on. And food and like some of the major stuff. And I lose that as soon as I get out of winter. So we got our first good luck day, which is great. And mines are open, obviously, because it's been over 100 days since we moved in. So we'll head there. We're going to do like the typical mining thing where I'll set up furnaces just outside the mine as we go and smelt as I mine, as usual. You may have noticed there I planted those 2 fruit trees too. Since I need to ship every single item, I need all the spring fruit as early as possible. So I need to start growing that stuff now, and fruit trees grow in the wintertime. So that's why I have those. It's also Evelyn's birthday, so I gave her a loved gift just to kind of boost her up a little bit. Ideally, I'll focus on gifting in like pretty strict groups after winter, which will basically be like in spring I'll focus on all the people with birthdays there so I can slowly chip away at them and not have to worry about everybody at once. So I'll probably explain that better later on, but this is kind of just the laying some general foundations for the whole run. And I had already super good luck. I got 2 rings already, which is insane. So yeah, I'm pretty happy I got star drop luck this early on, even after a couple really bad luck days. And again, I fast forwarded right there, as you can see, but I also have that prismatic slime quest. I think that's what it was. And so I'll encounter that slime relatively early here. And that is like really, really brutal early on. Like I'm fighting it now, and look how long this takes. Like luckily you can back him into a corner and stun lock him. But yeah, you can tell it's meant for late game. You know, you don't unlock that board until fall of year 1. So they expect you to be pretty far in, so I think that was sped up like 8 times, and it was still pretty rough. So, I don't know, I completed that, which will give me Monster Musk. And that Monster Musk is actually really valuable because I need to use it. I have to complete the monster eradication goals as part of perfection, which I guess I forgot about until just now. But that's going to be a challenge in itself because that's, I think, 1,000 slimes, 500 dust sprites, and yeah, just kind of a lot. A lot of every type of enemy. So it's just really time consuming in addition to having to do everything else. So there's just a lot of little stuff to keep track of in this game. And yeah, luckily we got that quest early because that monster musk will really help out. If you don't know, monster musk essentially makes monsters appear more often. That's the bulk of it. And our coop is done, and I think I think our axe was ready, so we could start upgrading it again. I don't know if that's true. It might be tomorrow. And I didn't realize these quests were worth so much money, and this is kind of a lifesaver early on too. Like I didn't think it was worth almost anything, but it's worth like $5,000 for the prismatic quest. And I don't usually do a lot of quests, so it's kind of nice. And yeah, here I go again with a little bit of clay farming. I don't know, I don't feel super great about using that tactic. But technically it's RNG manipulation, and it's generally widely accepted, and it's without using mods, and I don't know. You can it's kind of silly. It's really hypocritical, I think, to say like, oh, I'm not going to use the item spawning glitch where you name like your chickens the name of a star drop or whatever, and then I go ahead and do this. So I get it if you share that same opinion, but I had to make some allowances, to say the least, and that was one of them. So I will not be doing it after winter is over. Not that I need to, but so whatever. I exhausted myself, which is always good. And yeah, we'll just head out. I think we are going to do... What else are we going to do today? Yeah, we're going to go to Clint's. We have some other like random quests from mail that we can do, and so we'll be doing those too because those boost friendship a lot. And so like we'll go out of our way quite a bit just to try and get that stuff done, especially like the story quests, and not as much the little bulletin board quests, but we'll still do those too. And yeah, we have to give Pierre gifts, which super sucks. I was hoping to I wish I could avoid that somehow. Like never give Pierre gifts, never give Shane gifts, never give Alex gifts. But I have to, for perfection. Those are usually the ones I kind of ignore / like hit him with a slingshot. But I can't in this run, so I just have to kind of grin and bear it, I suppose. Luckily, Lily, oh goodness. Willy will be really easy to befriend early just because of the fish you catch in the wintertime. Assuming I catch enough of them, it'll be nice. It'll be nice to get him done with quickly. And ideally, like by winter 1, we'll have at least like 5 friends with some people. People like Pam will be valuable for batteries, but we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't plan it super specifically for the prep work, but I needed the advantage. I don't think I could have done it without it. So, and I guess I don't know if I can do it still, but we will see. So that is going to do it, I think, for this first episode. I will stick to my every other day sort of schedule, or at least Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so the next one will be going out in a couple days. And we got one more day of prep, and then I think we'll be moving on to probably a day at a time for a little while, and I'll kind of go into full detail about my route and like what I'm deciding to do, and we'll also check and see like how much of an advantage we're at on Spring 1st. We'll do like a little recap, so stay tuned if you're interested. I hope this is an interesting idea for a lot of you. See ya.